and how similar they were, which is really interesting. But I like the New Start acronym because it sounds cool, but also each letter in the New Start actually stands for something. So we have the N stands for nutrition, the E for exercise, W for water, S for sunlight, T for temperance, A for air, R for rest, and T for trust in divine power. And all of these things are really important to have a healthy, long life. And something that we covered last night to begin with was science is really neat, and it can show us awesome principles and things that we can put into practice so that we can have a long life. But really, that's not the goal in and of itself. The goal should be, the motivation behind having a long life is what? Well, to serve God and to serve those around us. And as we discovered, we can better do that when we're at our optimal health, whatever that looks like for you. And so, yeah, we want to be the greatest service towards God and thereby towards our fellow man. So the emphasis is not so much introspection, it's towards others. And I want to be able to best serve those around us. And with that motivation, we take care of our bodies for others. So, there's we all know that one person that's always helping others to the detriment of themselves. And although the motivation might be right, ultimately they're cutting back on their ability to help those around them. Because if they're working 14 hours a day, every day, well, I do that sometimes. I choose a different number. Then they're cutting back on how they can help people for longer than that. They're going to burn out. And some of us need more help with that than others. But so our motivation's got to be others. So what I'm actually going to do is I've asked several people, even in this congregation, or they volunteered rather, and we're going to actually just go through these 8 laws of health. And some of these things you might know and some you might not. But what it will do for all of us is it'll motivate us, hopefully, to be more conscious and aware of putting into practice that what we know, and also stimulate us to learn more. So actually, without further ado, Kyla has something for us, and she's going to talk for a few minutes on nutrition, the first letter of our New Start acronym.
I have like 3 papers.
Yeah.
Go through. He said about like 5 minutes, right? So I realized after he asked me to do this, wow, I was gonna say, I'm like 5 minutes to stand up here and talk is actually longer than people would think. So I've been absolutely poring over that video that you sent me. It was a wonderful presentation that you showed me by Neil Nedley, and this is where I got most of my information from. But I'm just going to kind of start things off first with a short quote from Ellen White. I don't have the exact place where it was found, but my dad can probably find it for you. But it says, to keep the body in a healthy condition in order that all parts of the living machinery may act harmoniously should be a study of our life. The children of God cannot glorify him with sickly bodies or dwarfed minds. So I know that if I don't do the bare basics every day, like eating 2 to 3 meals, drinking water, and sleeping, there's a very noticeable difference in my whole mood for that day. And the thing is that the effects of a lack of nutrition in our diet might not be noticeable at first to us, like a lack of sleep or water clearly is, but going long term without eating the foods that our bodies really need will eventually take a major toll on us. Also, eating the fresh foods that God gave us that are high in nutrition will help prevent and even cure the diseases caused by sin. And another quote from Ellen White, she says, grains, fruits, nuts, and vegetables in proper combination contain all the elements of nutrition. And when properly prepared, they constitute the diet that best promotes both physical and mental strength. And now I'm going to start trying to list a couple of points I found in this video to share with you guys about nutrition. And one of the things I've found is that what you want to do is you want to start incorporating foods that are high in antioxidants into your diet. I'm sure he's probably touched on quite a bit of this, but antioxidants are substances found in healthy foods that protect your cells and arteries from radicals in your system that can cause heart disease, cancer, and other diseases. Eating foods high in antioxidants will also slow down the aging process and even prevent damages made to the arteries. And there's a fairly long list online that you can Google for if you want to find a really extensive list on antioxidants that are really high in that. And but some of the easiest ones I found that are to remember for the grocery store are the really expensive berries. And that would be blueberries is really high on that list. And there's strawberries, raspberries, blackberries. Those are all really high in antioxidants. But again, there's a longer list. And there's also a long list for veggies too. But the ones that I use the most that I found on that were really high on it was onions, broccoli, spinach, and garlic. And the second essential thing that I think we should be doing to maintain our nutrition will kind of sound a little bit obvious when I say it, but it's to avoid disease producing foods. And there's a lot of them. And I know it kind of stinks to hear it, but even before they were sticking GMO and other junk and preservatives into everything, animal products have always eventually caused health problems in people, whether it be over time or immediate. And I know it might sound harsh because trust me, I loved Doritos at one point in my life. But one of the things that animal products have in them that plants do not is cholesterol. And we naturally produce cholesterol through our liver that helps our system because we do need some to live. But putting a ton of foreign cholesterol in our bodies creates a buildup in our bloodstream that can cause blockages. And the health of our circulatory system is so vital to our existence. I mean, we wouldn't live for very long if our blood stopped pumping. So kind of need that. And just a few blockages can be detrimental, but a dire situation doesn't really tend to happen immediately. It kind of happens over time because, I mean, as we age, we don't really exercise as much and our heart gets weaker and it's not as strong in pumping blood. And we will usually by then continue to eat the way that we always have been. And these blockages eventually continue to become more problematic down the road. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. You don't normally hear about like people in their 20s going into cardiac arrest. It's more like people who are much older once that problem has built up to the point that they go into a cardiac arrest. And another reason to avoid eating foods that are high in cholesterol is that the cholesterol in these foods tends to oxidize as we eat them. And when they get oxidized, they go straight into our arteries. And we were just learning about to eat antioxidants. So obviously, things that are oxidized are going to hurt us if we want to eat something that's antioxidizing. And another simple Google search will tell you that oxidation is a chain reaction that occurs in the presence of oxygen. It's responsible for the deterioration in the quality of food products, including off flavors and off odors. It's affected by processing, packaging, and storing methods, as well as product ingredients. So really foods that have been kind of ground up, packaged, shipped into a store, and then eventually make your way onto our plate are very damaging to our arteries because of all the oxidation that they went through to that system to finally get to us. And that's hard for me to hear as well because I eat a lot of canned and packaged foods a lot. And it's partially because it's convenient to just bring that to work for me, just kind of slap it into the microwave. But another reason is also because I personally don't know how to prepare food that is wholesome and good looking and tasty and like a nice and a wholesome manner that will benefit me. And which is why we're also doing a cooking class tomorrow, which I'm really excited about, that I'll be able to learn more on how to do that. And the last thing I think I'll touch on is how important it is for us to include omega-3s into our diet. Having omega-3s in your diet helps fight depression and anxiety, can improve eye health, helps the development of the brain in infants in the womb and after childbirth. It can improve risk factors for heart disease. It can also help fight autoimmune diseases and can fight mental decline and Alzheimer's disease. And there's an even much longer list than just that, but these omega-3s are absolutely amazing. But again, something you can look up, but for sake of time, I've kept it to a minimum. They're so incredibly powerful and definitely something we want to incorporate in our diet, but I am going to list the top 10 most omega-3 rich foods. And it's oregano, blueberries, sweet red pepper, avocado, pecans, green soybeans, wheat germ oil. Now, you wouldn't get omega-3s from white bread, but from wholesome wheat bread you would. And English walnuts, chia seeds, and flaxseed is the highest. And it makes me happy to know that avocado is on that list because I basically live off those. And but that's just the list of top 10 foods. There's more. I'm sure that Josiah could probably list more than that. But I think that mostly covers what I have to say on it. But I think that I'm going to probably end things with a a quote from 1 Corinthians 10:31. Whether therefore ye eat or drink or whatsoever ye do, do all to the glory of God. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Kyle. That was really comprehensive and honest too. It's so true that well, I'll ask you a question, or if you can relate to this. Do you know more that you should be doing that you're not doing? I think we can all testify to that. I know a lot that I should do that I don't. So maybe that's an area where we should start implementing what we know to do. But also, and I love Kyla's honesty there. Like I don't. She recognize first step in solving a problem is recognizing that there is a problem, and she doesn't know of healthy, wholesome ways to prepare food. So she's saying she's excited about this healthy cooking class, which will be tomorrow. So you don't want to miss that, and where you'll learn recipes and simple things. Yeah. Never mind. I'm not even. That was really good. Thank you for sharing that. And so next is, what's the next letter in our acronym? New Start. E. You got it. And it just occurred to me that that's me. Exercise. So exercise is intuitively necessary and helpful, right? Things in motion tend to stay in what? Motion, right? It's a law in physics, but it's also a law for our anatomy as well. If you just don't move, you'll actually ultimately lose that ability to move. If you are never raising your hands above your shoulders or above your head, you actually will lose that ability to do so. And what happens, a lot of rotator cuff injuries or shoulder injuries happen because you are you have in your mind that you can reach the box from the top shelf, but you haven't done it in years and years and years. And then you reach up and pick up that banana box or whatever full of books. Hopefully you don't put that on the top shelf, but something heavy, because you know you can do it intellectually, or you have been, and then it was too much for those muscles. So we want to do the range of motion, or we want to do the activity, we want to do the movements that you want to be able to do. Like you've heard the expression, brush the teeth you want to. Well, I like to say, do the range of motion you want to keep. If you want to be able to still reach above onto the top shelf, maybe some of us have to step on a stool. I'm looking at Jackie and myself to reach up. But if you want to still be able to reach up and pick that, you got to do it on a regular basis. So just arm circles, moving. Doesn't necessarily have to be weight bearing, although there's lots of benefits to doing weight bearing exercise. Actually, I was just reading a study that the weight bearing exercise is actually, it's interesting, but it's because of the lactate produced. But weight bearing exercise is extremely important for dementia and Alzheimer's and preventing neurodegeneration. And I thought that was interesting. I think it's because of the lactate produced by the metabolism of the muscle cells. But and that's actually, I'll talk about that right now. So glucose is the main fuel for our brain, but also lactate as well. You've all heard of lactic acid, right? When you work out, and people think that, or they used to think that that's the soreness feeling that you get in your muscles. But really, lactic acid dissociates rather quickly and becomes just lactate. And that's actually a brain food. And your brain can use that as a source of energy. So you can think about it, after you just go out and exercise and move around and maybe do some weight bearing exercise or walk or something, you're producing more lactate. And so you can think more clearly. Your brain's happy because it's got that fuel. Not only that, but you're having to increase your respirations, which Kyle will talk about. Increase your breathing, so you're oxygenating your brain. So you're capitalizing on multiple aspects of New Start. So for exercise, we want to do the range of motion that we want to keep, which is all of them. Anybody have a movement that they don't want to have to be able to do, or they don't need to do? Yeah, see, no hands. I asked the question in the right way. Yeah, I want to be able to do all the range of motion that God has designed me to be able to do. And in order to do that, I actually have to do it on a regular basis. And so how much exercise should we get a week or a day? About a half hour or an hour and a half of high intensity exercise, or a half hour each day of vigorous exercise or regular, moderate exercise. So 30 minutes a day. And this is where your heart rate is being elevated to 30%, 2/3 of maximum heart rate. And yes, Monica. Yeah. No, it's a very, very good question. And for certain people, it's more difficult than others. And uh, I'll go back and mention this earlier. Like, so we said 10 to 20% of disease is genetic and the rest is lifestyle. But that's from a statistical standpoint. For some individuals, it's 100% of their condition. Um, so for Monica, she has a condition not because of her lifestyle, but genetics, and so it's difficult for her. But I think there are ways that you can exercise, and we can talk about that later. And also, like, for everyone, if you're thinking of ways, how can I exercise? Get with somebody that does know, or even a physical therapist or occupational therapist are very good at specifically tailoring exercise plans for your specific condition. So whether that's, standing up at your desk each day, or every 15 minutes have an alarm where you can stand up and move around. It's important to move because of that circulation and that actually filling up your joints with synovial fluid. Actually, so if you're not using your joints, there's a fluid inside that joint capsule that helps to lubricate the cartilage and prevent the friction. But if that synovial fluid isn't there, there's more rubbing and tearing. So actually, how we get that fluid in that joint capsule is actually by movement. It's a hyperfiltrate of the blood. And so as we move our shoulders, more blood flow comes to the shoulders. If there's more blood flow to the shoulders, then there's more fluid that's going into that synovial cavity. So it's good to warm up before you're actually going to do your exercise, because that'll fill up that joint capsule. And so there's less friction, less tearing. But on top of that, there vascular health. We've got skeletal muscle, cardiac muscle, and smooth muscle, right? So that skeletal muscle is what we think of, everything that's attached to skeleton and it enables us to move, right? But also other muscles need to work out too. Your heart needs to work out. So that's where we're elevating our heart rate, usually when we're doing some kind of activity or vigorous activity. So that's getting that going. But also the smooth muscle needs to be stretched and exercised as well. The smooth muscle is the muscle that surrounds our arteries and our veins, our circulatory system. And so if they're never moving because your heart rate isn't changing, they're never having to get larger or smaller, constrict or dilate. I said that backwards. Dilate and constrict. There we go. Don't watch my hand motions. Then they're going to lose the capacity to do that. They're going to atrophy and become hard, stenosis, and you get sclerosis of some sort, arteriosclerosis or atherosclerosis. They both lead to inflammation, hardening of the arteries. So we want to be able to place a high demand of pressure on them for a short period of time so that they can dilate and constrict, and so they get that activity. Because if you lose your elasticity of your blood vessels, then we get conditions such as a heart attack or a stroke or impaired circulation to the feet as a result, and neuropathy. So there's a whole variety of reasons to stay moving: for lymphatic drainage, circulation, getting rid of the metabolic byproducts. So I'd encourage you to do what you can to keep moving. And that could be putting an alarm on. If you have a sedentary job, maybe look into a standing desk, or put in times where you can nudge yourself to movement. So that's exercise. And then also, I think I have water too. I really like water. Actually, this evening, we're going to be talking about the use of external water, hydrotherapy. And that's really important as well. So I don't know if I'll touch too much on that, but what are we mainly? What's in our bodies mainly? Water. So it would stand to reason logically that we should be putting an emphasis on the water that we drink. And water is important for circulation. As Kyla mentioned or referenced, without good blood, then we don't have health. But not only is it important to have the good raw materials in that blood, we also need to be able to circulate that blood. I love it. Jai, help me out. I think it's Leviticus 22:17 or 17:22. 17:22 says, the life of the creature is in the blood. And how true that is. What are the nutrients that are in the blood? Help me out. Oxygen, iron. That's very specific. Very good. What else? glucose, nutrients, hormones, antioxidants, which help to prevent oxidative stress. What else is in the blood? Hormones. Monica.
Oh, and just so you know, it's Exodus 17:11 or Leviticus 17:11.
Okay, awesome. Leviticus 17, for the life of the creature is in the blood. Yep. Yeah, killer T cells, immunocytes. Yeah, absolutely. All of these things are transported through the blood. So if you don't have it in your blood and you don't have good circulation of that, it serves you no purpose. You need to be able to circulate that. And how you circulate fluid throughout your body is, well, your heart does that. It's the pump. But the thickness of the blood, called the viscosity of the blood, makes a big difference. So if you can imagine, you've got all these thousands and thousands of miles of blood vessels, rather it's millions, and it's going through. You've got molasses pumping through that. Will molasses go through that straw or those arteries very well? Is it going to be easy to pump through molasses through those tiny arteries or blood vessels or veins? No, it's not. But what about in comparison to water? Will that be a lot easier? Yeah. So if you have nice, non-viscous blood, it's called hemofluidity, hemodynamics, then it's going to be a lot easier for your heart to be able to pump that blood throughout your body. Actually, some blood vessels are actually in the capillaries. They're only about a half a red blood cell thickness. So meaning that a red blood cell, in order to pass through that capillary bed, has to fold over in half to be able to fit through, only one at a time. That's pretty small. Your red blood cells are pretty small. That biconcave shape has to fold over and fit through. But if you can imagine you've got thick blood, that's not going to go through very well. And so, but your body needs it. And so your heart rate is going to go up. Your blood pressure is going to go up. So actually a great remedy just for reducing high blood pressure is what? Drinking water, decreasing the viscosity of that blood, making it easier for your heart to pump that blood around. And that's the life-saving blood. So it's important to get the raw materials that we need in the blood, but then also equally important to be able to circulate that well also. So yeah, definitely that benefits of water. Actually, and then external application of water, not even going to get into more therapeutic of that, but just washing hands. Around the world, I forget, but like one of the leading causes, especially of kids, of death around the world, is just lack of hand washing. And actually a study was found, it was done in Atlanta, of men going into airport stalls, and actually they did two things. They interviewed them, and then they had little cameras watching the sinks, like the security cameras. But 80% of men, 85% of men said they washed their hands after they went to the bathroom upon interview. And then when they watched the videos, I think it was less than 40% actually did. And so the women were much better, but still it would surprisingly how little they did wash their hands. So just washing your hands does a lot, because we're constantly, touching things that who knows where that's been or who else has touched that or what they touched before. And then we have an itch on our face, right? And we touch our face. So that's a big one, to wash your hands and also be mindful of how often and when you touch your face. I'll say it a little bit. Masks were not very good for that because you had people all the time. Now there is a time and a place for them, but it's just more frequently people touching things and then touching their face. You got to be mindful of how often you're doing that, and you wash your hands before you touch your mask and stuff. So definitely be aware of that. Wash your hands more frequently. And another study where they took individuals, kids, and they taught them how to wash their hands, and they had I think it was an hour class once a week on cleanliness and washing hands. They reported about 52% less days absent from school, just from that one day a week of an hour class where they had a little 10-minute lecture and then a workbook or a coloring book and 52% less days absent from school. So in my opinion, that's probably one of the biggest, educational things that we could be doing, because that's 52% less days missing from school. So wash your hands, drink water internally, externally, very important for our circulatory health and all around. Yes, Monica.
What do you do to get into the habit of drinking water? Because I don't have a good consistent water drinking habit.
All right, very good question. I think there's a variety of things. I see my brother here is drinking water right now. Have it available. Have a water bottle on you. Kyle and Jackie are really good because I always see them with a water bottle. Other people, I see water bottles often. I tend to forget mine. So I have to improve in that area. I'm frequently asking other people for their water bottle, but have it available. Have it nearby. And if you need to, make an alarm. You look like you're going to say something. No, okay. So having it available is a big step towards that. And how much water should we be drinking? At least 8 glasses of water a day. But I like to say more accurately, maybe half your body weight in ounces. So I'm 150 pounds, maybe 52. I vary. So 75 ounces of water in my case. So half your body weight in ounces is a good rule of thumb, or at least 8 cups of water. So awesome. So we have nutrition. What's the next one? E, exercise, and then W, water, and then S, sunshine.
Should it be warm water or just room temperature or water from the fridge?
It's really interesting, actually. I personally recommend room temperature water. However, there was a study done on that, and it actually turned out that it really blows my mind, but actually cold water actually enters the bloodstream faster than warm water. However, I still recommend warm water. Yeah. Partly due to we have inspiration behind that as well. So, but yeah, I would recommend warm water. Less work for your body to do. You don't have to warm up that water. So, I'd say at least lukewarm. What I think is the most important thing is to be drinking water. Yeah, make sure you're getting that half your body weight in ounces water. Awesome. So without further ado, let's invite Christine Penny up, and she's going to tell us of the benefits of sunshine. And she is just glowing. Can you see her?
Isn't that a beautiful picture? I'm looking at all the colors of that, and it just is really so nice.
That was water. And then sunshine.
And I feel guilty because I only brought a water bottle this big because I didn't have my big water bottle. So I hope your water here is good to drink so I can refill. So yes, I get to talk about sunshine. I love sunshine. I love the warmth of it. I love the way it makes me feel. And I wish it was sunshiny out there today. Sunshine, it's necessary for life, right? Plants require it for photosynthesis, converting light, oxygen, and water into energy. Humans require it for growth, strength, balance. Sunlight produces important hormones in our bodies to regulate sleep, and we like to sleep, don't we? Mood, and we like to be in good moods. Our immune system, we like to be healthy, and so much more. One of the best known benefits from sunlight is the ability to boost the body's vitamin. That's right. And what does vitamin D do for us? It regulates the amount of calcium, magnesium, and phosphates, all of which our bodies need for strong bones, teeth, and muscles. Deficiency in vitamin D can lower bone density, which as we get older, like I'm getting there, it's something that is concerning because I don't want my body to be led into bone disorders or have weak muscles, weak bones, fractures, osteopenia, and osteoporosis. Actually, I have osteoporosis, and so I'm now looking into ways to turn that around. Lack of vitamin D also keeps us from proper sleep, which can cause our immune system to suffer. And when our immune system suffers, we get sick. Sunlight regulates our sleep cycles by producing, anyone? Melatonin and serotonin? Yes. Melatonin regulates our sleep cycles. Serotonin regulates your mood, often called the feel-good hormone or chemical. Helps you feel more focused, emotionally stable, happier, calmer. Low levels of serotonin are associated with depression. In Alaska, there's a lot of depressed people, a lot of mental illness because of lack of sunshine. I know for myself, if there's a week of rain, I'm feeling miserable. And all my friends know it. It's like, uh-oh, it's been raining for a week. Let's get Chris out. Let's get her exercising, or let's get her doing something. And I love sunshine. It just really makes me feel better. Direct and indirect sunlight exposure on the retinal cells in our eyes influence the secretion of melatonin. So that helps. And I guess early in the morning, Dr. Nedley says, early in the morning, the first bright sunshine of the morning through the eyes is good to produce melatonin. Brighter, consistent sunshine exposure leads to more melatonin production at night, resulting in deeper, more restful sleep. Now, I haven't slept well in the last couple of nights, and I haven't been outside prior to that either. So I can attest to that fact. Sunlight and its effects also aid in age-related cognitive decline. My mother is starting to get, not Alzheimer's, dementia, thank you. And she never goes outside. And every time I call her, Mom, have you gone outside today? No. You need to go outside, just sit on the back porch in the sun, get some sunlight. And, well, we're trying to convince her to do that. But it's a good tip. Vitamin D decreases the risk. And a lot of these things I'm just learning by doing this research. It was like, really? Yeah. It decreases the risk of heart attack, stroke, gastroenteritis, colorectal cancers, blood disorders, and more. I mean, that's amazing. I didn't know all of that. One study, a new study actually, showed a 65% reduction of Parkinson's disease from sufficient vitamin D. That's mind-blowing, and that's a brand new study, so they're continuing to follow that to see how vitamin D can help in that situation. Sunlight treatments for tuberculosis years ago. What was the flu? Spanish flu years ago, and probably COVID. I think that was one of the things that they recommended, for COVID patients, to go outside and get fresh air and sunlight. Sun UV rays in our bodies aid our bodies in the production of nitric oxide, a nutrient that keeps many of the body's processes, including metabolism, functioning correctly. I had no clue. One study found nitric oxide production caused by UV rays can suppress weight gain and even prevent diabetes. All of this information is so shocking. Some of it we already know, but it's a good reminder because we tend to forget these things. It's also associated with lower blood pressure, suggesting that insufficient sunlight exposure could be a risk factor for hypertension or high blood pressure. How much sunlight do we need? It's a good question. Mostly only 10 to 15 minutes to receive benefits. First thing morning, bright light sets your body clock. Midday sun, 11 to 2, on your skin produces UV rays that produce vitamin D. And in the summer, this is interesting, fair-skinned people, 10 minutes produces about 10,000 units of vitamin D. We don't need 10,000 units a day, and our bodies will store it so that on those rainy days, you can use it. Dark-skinned people, it takes about 3 hours for the same result. But you have to remember to avoid sunburn. Obviously, we don't want to get sunburned because that can cause skin cancers. Now, dermatologists for years have told us to put on all kinds of sun lotion and protectant, and yes, we should. My dermatologist I go to every year, and she said she doesn't mind me being in the sun at all as long as I don't burn. So you have to take it gradually. Don't go out the first day of a warm summer day and stay out there for an hour, because you're going to damage your skin, and you don't want to do that. But 10 minutes, and then the next day a little longer. Tanning booths. Some people wonder if tanning booths can provide the same thing. Usually, no. They don't usually have the correct bulbs that would provide the UV rays. But for those who can't get sun, can't get out during the day, perhaps you're working and you're indoors all day, there are light therapy boxes. And where I'm staying at Lisa Chernish's house, and on the counter there was this thing, this little screen, and I pushed the button. Actually, Penny pushed the button, and really bright light, and it's a light box. So it was kind of cool to see that, and I think I'm going to get myself one for those rainy days, rainy weeks. Also noted, due to sun exposure or lack of it, February is the month more conducive to infectious disease. Kind of makes sense as we're listening. This was information from a 37-year study done in Denmark by a doctor. They keep really good records of every infectious disease, and we don't keep those same records here. And so they said that information, that February is the month most conducive to infectious disease. And I thought it was down here. I believe it was, September was the best month for public health, because you have the whole summer and you've been out in the sun and out. And if you want to get benefits from the first three things, nutrition, exercise, water, and sunlight, what would be a great exercise to do outside? Anybody? Oh, yeah, I like to swim. But gardening, too. Gardening is a great exercise. So you get the benefits of, it's not there anymore, but you get the benefits of that beautiful fruits and vegetables, and you get the exercise. And if you're out there in the sun, you're going to want water with you to drink and water to feed your plants. And so, yeah, that's a great way to benefit from all of the first 4 points. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was good research. I really like how each person that's sharing is saying new things that they just learned. So it's not like you need to be an expert in the topic. Just start learning things and then implementing them or applying them. One of the things that I really like that she said was the nitric oxide. Actually, in the sunlight, the UV rays they do a number of things, but once they hit the cholesterol under the skin, they turn into cholecalciferol, which then goes to the kidneys and actually enables us to absorb calcium. We can't actually absorb calcium without the sunlight, or unless you take it through a supplemental form, which is less beneficial. But cholecalciferol enables calcium absorption. So that's why we had a problem with rickets in the past, but now we're fortifying more things with vitamin D. But ideally, you get it right from the sun. And also, the reason why sunlight benefits so many things that she was saying, cardiovascular disease and diabetes, is because of that nitric oxide. And same thing. So when UV rays come and hit the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels, they produce nitric oxide. You might have heard of nitroglycerin before, right? If somebody's had a heart, well, that's how they found that compound. They said, wow, the most powerful antioxidant known to man is nitric oxide. How can we take that and put it into a pill form? That's what they did. But we can just produce that on our own, just by going out into the sunshine and also and then produce and cause our blood vessels to dilate, which decreases the pressure within that system. Also, just activity, any manipulation of those blood vessels will also secrete nitric oxide. So that was really awesome. Thank you. So we have New Start. N stands for nutrition. E for W for S. S for sunlight. And what's the next one? T for temperance. Maybe one of the most important ones. Actually, out of all the 8 laws, you can overdose on them. The last T is debatable. It depends in practice, trust in divine power. But all of them you can get too much of or too little. But temperance, you can't get too much temperance. So what is temperance? Maybe we can have my sister here share with us.
Hello, thank you. You guys are talking so fast. I might not be able to talk as fast, but I just lost my page here. 9, there we go. So yes, Josiah is right. Temperance is one of the crucial parts of being able to live healthier and happy life. Because you can do all those things, but if you don't have temperance in you, then you can either overdo or underdo good things and bad things. So I would like to start with 1 Corinthians 9:24 through 27. Do you not know that those who run in a race all run, but one receives the prize? Run in such a way that you may obtain it. And everyone who competes for the prize is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a perishable crown, but we for an imperishable crown. Therefore, I run thus, not with uncertainty. Thus I fight, not as one, but who beats the air. But I discipline my body and bring it into subjection, lest when I have preached to others, I myself should become disqualified. So, what is temperance? And these days we don't really use that word, right? So to kind of describe temperance is two words: moderation in the use of healthy substances or things, or eating healthy, and abstinences from unhealthy things. So in what do we consider, what can we like include into moderation? So we can, like, water is good, but can we overflow our body? Certainly yes. Certainly yes, because if we drink like 2 gallons of water every day, our body is just not going to be able to consistently push it out, I guess. And can we over exercise? Absolutely yes. Some people make it as a career and they can definitely over exercise their body. They actually think that they look good, but personally, to me, they look very unhealthy. um, is hot pepper good? In a small moderate things, it's good, but if we overeat hot pepper, it can destroy that very thin membrane in our body, especially in our stomach, and can give us ulcers. Too much sunlight, can we get sunburned? Yes. Garlic, can we eat too much garlic? Yes, it's a blood thinner, it lowers our blood pressure. If we overdo with that, that can also cause us problems. Eat is good, overeat is not so good. Sleeping in moderation is proper, but if we oversleep, people that sleep over 8, 9, 10 hours a day, they're prone to depression. People that don't sleep enough, also prone to depression and anxieties. Work is good, but overwork is not good. And also underwork is not good. Not working enough is not good. And you can read that in book of Proverbs, chapter 6. So we talk about moderation and what are the things we need to abstain completely. And we will talk a little bit, but why is it important to abstain from some things? And some people say like, well, I'm different. And actually, if I don't have that, I can't live my life normally. And that's actually very interesting because it's one of the traps of Satan. He makes us think that I am different because I actually really need that particular thing, and whatever works for everybody is not going to work for particular me. And we will dig into it more. But to have something, if we are trying to abstain from bad habits, and to have it sometimes like once a month or once in 3 months, what do? We keep that habit alive, and we cannot completely let go of that bad habit. And a funny, well, not funny, but interesting thing that I've listened from the Neil Nedley seminar is he said that you can never get enough of something you do not need. You can never get enough of something you do not need. So some of the examples why it's important to abstain from some bad substances is like alcoholic. Alcoholic can never become a moderate drinker anymore. Or a smoker, he can never become a moderate smoker once in a while anymore. It's always an addiction. It's a consistent addiction. And so one of the big addictions, and we don't really consider it as addiction, is really loud word caffeine. So what caffeine does, a lot, most of the addictions, they basically suppress our frontal lobe, and we have a hard time making the right decisions. We fall into those bad habits, we fall into those depressions because our frontal lobe is suppressed and our problem solving area of our brain is suppressed. So we have a difficult times sometimes even with the small tasks in our lives. And the more we stay in a bad habit, the harder it becomes. And I like what Neil Nedley said, that people choose caffeine because of the cocoa beans, and they are like good for you. They're antioxidants, but there is so much bad in the caffeine. Then why do we choose something small good? Why not to choose all good? Something that brings only good for us. So we know that alcohol is not good for us. Tobacco is really, carcinogenic. All of those destroy us from the inside out. And interesting fact, I just found out last night that 2 pounds of charcoal broiled steak equals 600 cigarettes of benzoprine. That's a carcinogenic element.
Class 1 carcinogen.
Yes. Yeah. So like 2 pounds of charcoal broiled steak equals 600 cigarettes. Something to think about as well. Also, I just wanted to touch a little bit on how the dopamine level works. So, for example, when we drink some caffeine, at first, when we start drinking caffeine, it spikes our dopamine level to a very high level where we feel very happy, like almost never happy before, and we can almost reach that euphoric stage. But that only lasts a little while, and that brings us down, and it brings us below the normal stage of, dopamine levels. The next time we drink caffeine, it doesn't bring us as high, but still somewhat high, but it drops us even lower than normal, than the previous time. And again and again. So with every time, it stops working, but people believe that it keeps working. And the interesting thing is, it takes only a few days with caffeine to get to that point. So it might work for the first 2 days of your life, but for the rest of your life, it's really not going to help you. So if you want to be energetic, if you want to have that alertness in your life at work, just stay away from coffee. Drink some water. Eat some oranges, especially when you open the orange peel. That spray, it gives you that alertness. So try that. Next time you feel sleepy, just start peeling an orange, and it will give you an energy as you smell it. All right, the next one I wanted to touch up is on some of the addictions that are very common. And since everybody was saying something about themselves, I can say about myself, it's sugar. Sugar is very addictive. I would say maybe I'm not as addictive as I used to be. I'm working my way out of it, but amen. And sometimes interesting sometimes when I don't get enough sleep or I'm tired or I'm stressed, I'm more prone to take something sugary than eating an apple or grapes instead. So actually, it's addiction probably a lot among a lot of us. The next one is chocolate. 40% of people are addicted to chocolate. Sometimes I eat it as well. Not good, nothing to be proud of. There's so many things to be addicted to these days. Social media, Instagram, Facebook, people can spend hours upon hours. And even more to it, like video games, TV shows. People are, at my job, people are talking about these TV shows like it's like a pill before they go to sleep, So when they ask me, like, oh, don't you watch that show? I'm like, what? For me, in my life, once I'm in the horizontal position, I'm sleeping. Like, there's no time for shows. But one of the big and very hard addictions is our days is pornography. And pornography is actually they link it to cocaine because it's so easy to get addicted to it. It's basically one-time use, just like people get hooked on cocaine from either just using one time. The same with pornography. So it's better never go on that side. And also in that area, it's a deviant sexual practices. So individuals who do practice that, they set themselves up for actually having a hard time enjoying a regular marriage practices and having pleasure from those things and being satisfied from being having your partner. And the next one, I haven't heard about it, but from the video, it's young people these days, apparently they like cutting themselves. And it brings them this some kind of satisfaction. When they cut themselves, the flow of blood will bring them some kind of satisfaction of, even getting like to euphoric stage. I personally don't understand that, but if people are talking about it, then it's a real thing. And I would like to take that as a serious thing, because we think that people who cut themselves, they are suicidal, but they're actually addicted to it. It might not be necessary that they're suicidal, but they're just addicted to it. And tattoos, having tattoos on your body also have that component to it of addiction. I also wanted to touch up on the benzodiazepines, Xanax, Ativan. Those are all addictive. Those are all frontal lobe suppressants. And you can know about it if that the person is addicted to it when there's no like Ativan by their bed and they cannot function without that pill, and they become depressed about their life when there is nothing really is depressing in their life. Ativan, it's called antidepressants. Lorazepam, Ativan, Xanax. So if people go for to the doctors and they say like, I feel depressed, I have a lot of anxiety, also anti-anxiety medications. So a lot of times the doctors, without knowing the New Start principles, they will prescribe those heavy heavy prescriptions that really maybe help in the beginning a little bit, but it's just a downslope to more depression and more anxiety. However, with all those things, I'm here to tell you good things, good news with a new start, that with the temperance and ability to choose your own pleasure, we can overcome all those things. You know, we can choose intemperance in our lives. We can um, build those barriers between us and those addictions. And um, you know, choosing, you know, I actually would like to encourage each one of us to look through our life and think about it. What is my personal addiction? Because each one of us have something, I bet you, in that. And with those things, choose small things that you can do every single day to overcome those addictions. And those small things can be watching sunset. And a lot of times people with addictions, they don't see anything special in it. You know, you will tell them, wow, look at this beautiful sunset. And they will be like, oh, okay. But I actually really enjoy sunset and sunrises. You know, it just brings you this emotional lift. Fresh air, go for a walk, you know, get that breeze from outside. You know, it's good for your skin. Last week it was very warm, so um, I brought my friend and we drove to the ocean and we just jumped into the ocean. Cold water, it was so good, so refreshing. And it wasn't cold at all. So just bring those small practices, positive practices in your daily life. And at the end, I just want to read you a quote from Ministry of Healing. When one surrenders to Christ, the mind is brought under the control of the law, but it is the royal law which proclaims liberty to every captive. By becoming one with Christ, man is made free. Subjection to the will of Christ means restoration to perfect manhood. It's a Ministry of Healing 131, if somebody wants to read that later. Thank you so much, and may God bless you.
That was such a blessing. I really like what she said at the beginning. You can never get enough of what you don't need, because everything that you need, you have set amounts for, like homeostasis. You can get too much of it or too little of it. You need to find that balance. But something that you don't need, there is no set requirement for it. Because for sodium, you have certain sodium requirements. For other things, certain iron requirement, but you can get too much or too little. But if you don't need, there is nothing. So there, you're never going to meet that threshold. Wow, thank you. And I think a lot of people have been referencing the video that I watched. I did send some information. So if you guys are curious, Dr. Neil Nedley did a seminar on the New Start principles. And actually the acronym New Start comes from Weimar University, if you're interested. And so, but the very good seminar that he goes more in depth on each one of these. Lots of people do. It's not just him, but that's the videos that people are referencing. So Dr. Neil Nedley, New Start presentations. So we have N stands for nutrition, E stands for W, S, T, start A, air. Awesome. So Kyle, Master Howard, is going to speak to us about air.
So I've got air, something so very common and prevalent in every single one of our lives, where every single person gets exposed to air. But did you guys know something? You are not geese. Do you know why that's important that you're not geese? See, what geese have that's special, and actually a lot of different birds, they have two sets of lungs. One set brings in the air, all fresh air gets put into this, and then it goes through exchanges, and the used air gets stored in another set of lungs and gets expelled from there. And the reason why they have this is because geese fly at very, very high altitudes where there is not as much oxygen. And so what's necessary for them is they want to utilize every bit of oxygen that they can get access to. And so they're always breathing in and exchanging clean air. But humans are not geese. We have two sets of lungs, and we exhale and inhale. One set, two individual lungs. Yeah, lobes. So we breathe in and exhale from the same place. And so it's very, very important for us that we actually exchange all the air that's in our lungs. A lot of us have become accustomed to not breathing correctly. We think that we all know how to breathe correctly, but very often we don't practice it. You know, the people who know how to breathe the best? Babies. That's it. Babies know how to breathe the best. Because, when you see, your baby laying there, and as they breathe in, what goes up the most? Their belly. You see their belly come up like they're just full of food, and then it goes back down to resting state, and they're always breathing from their belly. Now, why is that? Why are they breathing from their belly? What's happening on the inside that causes you to see that? Their diaphragm muscle. So often when we see cartoons of people taking in deep breaths, what do? They puff out their chest, they get all big and everything. But that is actually the worst way to breathe possible, because what happens is you actually only exchange about 1/3 of the air that your lungs have the capacity to hold. And so what you're doing is you're leaving a bunch of carbon dioxide, which your body can't use and wants to get out. And you're leaving that in there and only exchanging the top 1/3. And so breathing from the diaphragm is of utmost importance. So we're all going to do an exercise. Let's all stand up. So how we can know that we're breathing from our diaphragm is we'll feel our stomach extend. Now, we want to do this naturally. We don't just want to breathe in from our chest, but push out our stomach. We want to allow it to come naturally. And so we're gonna do something called the 4-7-9 rule. So what this is a very good exercise to breathe, and it only takes 20 seconds. Thank you, Josiah. And so we inhale through our nose. We'll talk more about that after. For 4 seconds. So it'll be a slow inhale. We hold our breath for 7 seconds, and then we will exhale for 9 seconds. So it'll be a long exhale. So you don't just all let it out all out at once. All right. So we'll do this. And while we're doing this, try to focus on your stomach, breathing in deep, that your stomach is extending. All right. Yeah, that's good.
No, you can. I'll just.
Oh, okay. All right. So let's breathe in.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hold.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And breathe out slowly for 9.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Wonderful. So that's one rotation, and often this is better the more we have. We could spend a lot of time breathing on this, but we'll just do one, and we just want to focus on bringing out that diaphragm so that we can get a full inhalation and full exhalation. That's the important thing, so that you can utilize all of the good air that you are bringing in. All right, everybody can sit now. So another thing about our lungs is, we focus a lot on our food and what we eat, and that is extremely important. But something else that's important is with our lungs. When we eat something, where does it go? It goes into our stomach, and what happens to it? A bunch of juices and enzymes, all in acids, all get added to it, and it begins the process of breaking down. And then it goes into our small intestines, and more enzymes, more processes are going on to digest. And you're constantly getting fluids from different places, or products are moved into cleaning organs of the body, such as the liver or having enzyme production organs involved. And all of these things are used in order to break down and to absorb the food that we're eating. So there's many, many processes involved in both cleaning and establishing getting good nutrients. But with air, there's only one cell that separates the outside air from our blood, and that is our alveoli. I don't know if anyone remembers that word from that science class many years ago. But this is basically just a little cell that helps for exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide that we're breathing in and then exhaling, and the exchange in the body. And so your body does not have a lot of filters once the air is in the lungs. Uh, it, so as you learned a little bit with the water that Josiah was talking about, our blood being healthy is very important. And one thing that our blood carries, the main thing, I believe, is oxygen, because all of your cells need that. And so you want a good quality stream of air. And so one of the filters that your body does have that many of us don't use is our nose. Breathing in through our nose is actually far better than breathing in through our mouth. Anyone know why? Nose hairs. I heard someone. Nose hairs. Yes, that's one reason. Where nose hairs actually catch and act as a filter. And so they catch dust and many things. So in my line of work as an electrician, I sometimes go in a lot of dirty basements and attics. And one thing that's very abundant in both of those places is dust. And so if I'm in one of these environments for a long period of time, what happens is I come out and I immediately have to blow my nose, and it comes out black. Yeah, that's yucky. But what that is that's my body doing its job, because if my nose hairs were not present and there was not an influx of mucus to create boogers, and to then expel those, what would happen is all of those pollutions and dust and fecal matter and whatever is in the air from the mice and rats that live in those dark places would be into our lungs. And then, as we have already discovered, there's not a lot of filters. And so we get yucky air and thus yucky blood, and we feel sad. And so, yes, so breathing in through our nose is very, very important. And that's why when we're practicing our 4-7-9 technique, we want to be breathing in through our nose and exhaling out through our mouth. Now, we think that we're getting a lot more air through our mouth, and we actually are. But the difference is the quality of air. And so it's far better to be breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, as your mouth has very little filters for air. Or none, rather. Wonderful. Another thing, as we've been experiencing extremely strange weather for Maine. It is November 12th now, and we're sitting at about 65 degrees right now, which is wonderful, but winter is coming. And what happens to our home when winter does finally come? We close the windows. Sometimes we put plastic over the windows. Sometimes we put foam inside of our windows. We do everything we can to keep air from coming into our home. But what that then leaves us with is a very poor quality of air. And so when we have this poor air, what happens is our body begins to get affected. I've got some facts here. So 2 people, or we'll just say one person exhales 30 quarts of CO2 every hour. 2 people over a period of 8 hours within a room will exhale 190 cubic feet of CO2. And thus, I did the math that us being in church, let's say we arrive at 9 and leave at 1, and let's say we have 50 people here. I think we have more than that right now. But if we just had 50 people, we would have an exhalation of 2,375 cubic feet of carbon dioxide. Now, why is that important to us? Well, what are some of the characteristics of when there's high carbon dioxide in the air? What begins to happen to our bodies? Fainting, fogginess, what'd you say? That's right. We get the fogginess, we get drowsiness. Yes. See, in Sabbath school, how many people fall asleep? Church, a lot higher number. All right. And so what that a large cause for that is because, especially during the winter months, we have all the windows closed. Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Josiah. I'm glad yeah, please open them up. And so what happens is over time, where we have all these people exhaling carbon dioxide, we begin to be working and our brain is processing less efficiently because we have poor oxygen coming into our body. And so next time that you're thinking that, wow, I'm getting really tired, I'm having a hard time focusing, we want to be thinking about what quality of air is having it. And now in the winter, we all try to shut out every possibility of air coming in, especially the cold air. Because what did your mother tell you when you went outside without a jacket on in the winter? You're gonna catch a cold. Well, I have something to tell you. Mother was wrong. Cold air is actually very beneficial to the body in many different ways. One, it can boost your immune system, having exposure to cold air after being in a warm environment. I think we'll talk more about the hot, cold experience when we go into hydrotherapy, I believe this afternoon. And that. And so with cold air, there was a study done over air pollution in Helsinki, Finland. And so this study was done between 1998 and 2004. And what was being examined was what air pollution had an effect on during the different seasons and how that affected, they were looking specifically at strokes and the health of people. And so they found out that when there was 6 micrograms per cubic meter of air pollution, that in the summertime, people were at a 6.9% increased risk of stroke. And from that's day of exposure. And then if there was previous day exposure of 6 micrograms per cubic meter, the next day had a 7.2% increase chance for death by stroke. And so what was very interesting within this study is that happened during the summertime. In the wintertime, there was found to be no effect of the air pollution upon strokes. And so there is something refreshing about cold air where the pollution within the air is not as affecting our body, at least within this study. And so even within the winter time, it is very important to get an exchange of air. Now, this doesn't mean that you want to always be cold. Being cold consistently can lead toward, mild hypothermia, and that would lead to a drop in your immune system and would no longer be healthy for you. But having exchanges of air is very important. Let's see what else I want to say, because I'm speaking longer than I desired. Another thing about air is, does anyone know what the most common illness in children is? Asthma. That's right. asthma is the most common. And so between the decade of 2007 to 2017, there was an increase in cases of asthma by 45%. More and more as our society gets used to staying inside and working from home and using technology, we remain inside and thus often through poor health habits have a increased air pollution in our home and thus uh, and thus increase our risk for asthma. The three top leading causes, at least in America, of asthma are in suburbs, uh, cat dander and dust mites. And in urban areas, the very top leading cause of asthma is actually cockroaches. And so something about our air is very, very important about the dust that we see on the floor. Because when we leave our surfaces uncleaned, our floors, our counters, our walls, things like this, what happens is that by us just moving through our home, it's constantly being kicked up into the air and brought into our lungs and decreases the efficiency of our oxygen and CO2 exchange and actually poisons our body. And so I will end. There's much more things about air that could be said, but I'll end with this quote, especially involving the sick. It's very important, but everyone. It says sleeping apartments should be large and so arranged as to have circulation of air through them day and night. Those who have excluded the air from their sleeping rooms should begin to change their course immediately. They should let in air by degrees and increase its circulation until they can bear it, winter and summer, with no danger of taking and getting a cold. The lungs, in order to be healthy, must have pure air. Those who have not had a free circulation of air in their room through the night generally awake feeling exhausted and feverish, and they do not know the cause. It was the air, vital air that the whole system required, but which it could not attain. Remember, one person being in a space for 1 hour will fill up 95 cubic feet of CO2. And so if your room, bedroom, closed door, closed windows, there's no exchange for air, that's 8 hours of poor sleep and exchange. And that leads to many negative effects to the body, doubled if you have a spouse. Yeah.
Amen. Thank you for spouses, but open windows even more. Thank you very much. So real quick, nutrition, N stands for what? Nutrition. E stands for
Exercise.
W for S. T. You start A. Air. R.
Rest.
Oh, wait, we didn't do rest. We have got rest. Who's got rest for us today? Yes, awesome, excellent. And we're short on time here, but you've got a lot of information for us.
So if we're short on time, I'm going to try to pack as much as I possibly can into the whole situation.
You only got 2 minutes, Dave.
All right, we're going to do our best to bang through this. So I'm going to start my presentation off with Matthew 11:28. Come to me all, and we all know this.
Yeah.
Come to me all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So through the video that Josiah sent me, it's very kind of a cool way to put it, vitamin R, which would be your rest, which myself, I struggle with it all the time, and I'm sure a lot of people do as well. I've always had issues with trying to get to sleep. A lot of people have a problem trying to stay asleep as well. Let's see. In the video, they also touched on 4 different types of rest. You have your daily rest, your weekly rest, your recreational rest, and your reflection rest. As on average, we should have between 7 and 8 hours a day, which I'm guilty. I don't have nearly enough sleep, which causes all sorts of issues, sleep apnea, sleep deprivation, which also affects your health, your stamina. Less sleep just causes all sorts of health issues. Sleeping too little or too much isn't a bad thing. So our average between 6 and 8 hours, anything more than that can cause all sorts of problems, as well as less can also. 60% of the population can't get to sleep, and the other half can't stay asleep that have sleeping issues. Then, of course, sleeping pills come into play. We go to the doctors and ask for what we can give us, which isn't always a good thing. We shouldn't try to go through that type of situation on getting pills from our doctors. If we can find different ways, more natural ways, food, diet, exercise, as well, as we all touched on earlier, also helps with our sleep habits itself. We also have very much a addiction to our devices, which we also have a hard time putting down and getting away from at night before we get to sleep. And we should actually shut off our telephones or our laptops or our tablets at least an hour or so before we get to sleep every night, which in turn is going to have the mind slowly to decompress from the day's events and things that we've gone through as well. Blue light is also caused from these devices, which inhibits or it really breaks down our sleep habits as well. Studies have shown that if we handle stress better also, we don't have to sleep as much. Exercise as well. If we take an hour of exercise, we can also sleep less. If we can replace that hour of sleep with exercise, and it's still going to give us the same healthy results as well. Physical exercise helps us sleep better, and we can swap, like I said, an hour of sleep for exercise. Sleep inhibitors, sleep robbers, television, of course, internet, video games, too much screen time, especially when we stay on social media, also will destroy our sleep. We also have, and of course, if we are sleep deprived, we start to lose judgment. Our thought process starts to break down. Then, of course, if we continue to, we're going to have sleep deprivation and we're going to have microsleep. If we're going down the road, I've had it happen to me before. Just driving down the road, all of a sudden you doze off behind the wheel, which of course is never a good thing. Which also can cause accidents, so forth and so on, if it continues to progress to a higher level of insomnia. But the good part is we can also make up for that lost sleep that we lose. We can, say that you got less sleep today, tomorrow night you can go to bed earlier and make up for those hours that you have lost. Which in turn, Josiah touched on it last night, when we do sleep, it gives the body time to regenerate the melatonin in the body, which in turn helps clean the brain. The plaque and everything else gets distributed and taken care of. It pretty much washes all these things out of our brain so we can live a healthier, happier life. Better sleep, of course, is going to also get us to be healthier, have more energy in the morning, get up and hit the ground running, so to say. Missing sleep, just for an example, losing sleep also has all sorts of medical issues. It can cause you depression, delusions, and hallucinations if you continue to lose less sleep. Just missing 3 hours of sleep a day or a week weakens the immune system, which we all don't want. Diabetes also, if you get 6 hours of sleep or less, your diabetes is going to skyrocket through the roof as well. Also, sleep apneas, which causes us to lose oxygen to the brain as well. And of course, we all know that's going to cause all sorts of mental problems in our bodies. Also, obesity. If less sleep, you can also will potentially gain weight as well. Let's see. Of course, your increase in melatonin is going to protect you from certain carcinogens, herbicides, And radiation helps to fight against these things, delays some effects of the aging process as well, the immunity also, once you get more sleep. Ways to improve sleep quality, which I need to incorporate in my life because the sleep thing is just all over the place. Set your body like clock, daily exercise, and a clear conscience. Avoid daytime boredom. Sitting around doing nothing all day long, you tend to doze off. And of course, that's going to disrupt your 8 hours of sleep, your ideal 8 hours of sleep as well. Let's see. Of course, everything goes in together when it comes to your sleep, your diet, your stress levels. All these things have an impact on your sleep as also. Also try not to sleep during the day because it is going to disrupt things. Weekly rest. So these are the areas that they touched on. Weekly rest, weekly rhythm, 7 days rhythm, which we as Seventh-day Adventists take that 1 day a week to rest, which we should every week. Regardless, if you're not SDA like we are, we were given a God that is a beautiful being, and he knew that we would work ourselves to death. So he wants us to at least take 1 day to completely rest, do nothing, walk in his light and his love and his glory, and rest. The body needs to rejuvenate itself as well. The inner and the outer. Of course, once we lose sleep, we start to age more. We start to look older. Let's see, recreation, sleep is also exercise will help us sleep. Rest, sorry, thank you. And it doesn't necessarily need to be exercise. You can go for a walk, you can go for a drive, any kind of recreation that's going to cause your body to, at a certain time of night, to start slowing down, shutting down to get more sleep. Reflections, also meditation, prayer meditation. It was said that if you take an hour of day to have devotional with God every morning, as we do as SDA, we are actually happier. Our stress levels are a lot less, and we're able to have a better lifestyle and better rest as well. And we want less stress in our lives as well. So in the short time, I bang that out as quickly as possible because we are cutting on, getting a little bit stressed out on time. So
Thank you very much. Have you learned something today? Yes, awesome. Well, we have one more last important topic, which is what does the last T stand for? Trust in divine power. And Jackie has got all sorts of wonderful things to say, but I've asked her to just go the most important things.
Okay, who here wants to be happy? Okay, that's quite a few people. Who here wants to be healthy? Who here wants to be holy? Oh, okay. So the cool thing about New Start, all of this big acronym that we're going over, is that what God has already done for us and is continuing to do is that we get to be happier, healthier, and holier in this life, and nothing short of the three. And it's absolutely incredible. So how do we? Let's define trust for a moment. What is it? What is trust in general? Maybe there's an element of faith, right? Maybe think of it with another person. What would say I trust that person? What defines it? Loyalty. Maybe loyalty, right?
Feeling of safety.
Safety, okay. And yep, perfect. And we could think of several other things if the time allowed for it, right? And I think one of the big things with trust is that it's built over time. And it's not just that it's built over time, but it's grown, but it's a quality time. It's not just, for those of how many people are married here? Let's put it this way. Okay. So did you just meet your spouse one day and you knew them as well as you do now? Did you trust them as soon as you met them fully? But now you trust them probably a lot more, right? And so it's the same thing with God. We get to enter into this relationship where we, over time, get to spend quality time with him and learn that process of trust. So let me see how I can make this really quick. Well, I think we do a disservice if we didn't open our Bible. So if you've got it with you, we're going to open it up. Y'all thought you could skip this step, huh? All right, open your Bible to Numbers 21, and we're going to be in verse 4. So Numbers is in the beginning of your Bible, first few chapters in. Numbers chapter 21, verses 4 through 8, and it says this. Then they, talking about children of Israel here, then they journeyed from Mount Hor by the way of the Red Sea to go around the land of Edom. And the soul of the people became very discouraged on the way. And the people spoke against God and against Moses. And they said, why have you brought us out of Egypt to die in the wilderness? For there's no food and no water, and our soul loathes, hates this worthless bread. Okay, so we're starting to see some ungratefulness here, right? So the Lord sent fiery serpents among the people, and they bit the people, and many of the people of Israel died. Therefore the people came to Moses and said, we've sinned, for we've spoken against the Lord and against you. Pray to the Lord that he may take away the serpents from us. And so Moses prayed for the people. Then the Lord said to Moses, make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole, and it shall be that everyone who is bitten, when he looks at it, shall what? That he'll live, right? So that they would raise it up, and if you looked, you'd live. So Moses made a bronze serpent, made the pole, etc. So when they looked at it, what healed them? D, all of the above, right? There was no, magic power or whatever in the rod itself, but in the faith of the people looking toward is what healed them. Right? So let's make this real practical for us, because we're talking long time ago over in Israel, right? But let's make it really practical. Open your Bibles to John chapter 3. And we're going to go somewhere really familiar, but I want to show you a verse you might not be so familiar with because you're familiar with the one we're going to read. John chapter 3. And we're going to start in verse 15. It says that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. And it goes on. But check this out. What does verse 14 say? Right? It says, and as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, even so must the Son of Man be lifted up. So basically what's happening here is Jesus is saying, as if this were him, he'd be saying, look and live, right? Let your faith in me and what I want to do for you and making you happier, healthier, holier in this life, let that be a real experience you walk in, right? And so that's offered to us. It's not that we just have to try harder, be better, generate the power all ourselves, although there is an aspect of obedience and making decisions, making choices. But God is saying, let me be the fountain from which you drink, and I'll give you power so that you can exercise the power of the will that I've given you to make those decisions, right? A couple more things. Do you want me to go into the physiological part of dopamine and stuff? Okay, I'll skip it. See me after if you want to know more about the mind. So I want to end with these couple of thoughts. So sometimes we might get presented, one of the pillars of New Start is trusting God, and somebody might be feeling, well, I don't trust God, or I don't know how to trust God. And we may sometimes fall into a rut every now and then, or maybe we've been in it our whole life. And that's okay. Don't let that stop you from coming to him. But I think that the best way to get to know somebody is to spend time with them, just like we did with our spouses or our best friend, or understanding what our children like or don't like. We had to spend quality time with them, right? And so I would encourage you that if you want to know that, not just know about, but if you intimately want to know this God who desires you and loves you, spend time, right? Spend time in the Bible. Spend time with people who encourage you and can lift you up. Spend time in prayer. But if you want to know the one who heals you through all of these different things, through natural remedies, through the use of sunlight, through the use of water, through all these things. If you want to know the one over it all, decide to make time to spend time to know him. But that we're not going to know him if we never spend time, just like I'll never know my best friend if I never spend time with her, right? So I would leave you on that note. Feel free to come see me for this paper, and you can put a picture on your phone. But I think a good place to start, if I were to give you a tool, is there's this paper that says God's voice and Satan's voice. For example, God's voice says, his voice stills you, it leads you, it reassures you, comforts you, etc. Satan's voice often rushes you, pushes you, frightens you, confuses you, worries you, etc. And so we can kind of start to see, who is this coming from, right? I'll end on this quote. So it says that the truth of things is our only refuge from the look of things. In other words, what the truth about something is, it's our only safety from how I feel, I see a situation, I think, or whatever it be. The truth is that there's the eternal reality is that there is a God in heaven who loves us, who wants to heal you, who wants to make you happier, healthier, and holier in this life, and we get to walk into that together.
Thank you very much. We'll take like a couple minutes, and literally like 120 seconds. And if you want to stand up, stretch, introduce yourself to the person next to you, or if you have to go to the bathroom, 1 second. 1 second for use of the bathroom will get back.